I'm live. This is a minor miracle because 25 minutes after it was supposed to start, I'm just going to verify that this thing's working. My apologies, but I guess it's probably the best thing for for me to try it today and not actually on the actual 10th anniversary. Let's just verify one more thing. So it says I'm live right now, and I am live, I think, right now. Yep. All right. So this might be a podcast or whatever, because I don't know if anyone's going to find it. I am wearing my Ben Sinister Animals t-shirt. Where did my notebook go? So I usually on Tuesday nights, my wife and I, we don't really play. We love this guy who does this trivia. We did trivia, online trivia, named Trivia Workshop. And I'm on their Discord and the Facebook page and everything like that. And that's on at 8:00, but I don't play along because we don't get enough of the answers right. And there's teams that get all the answers right, and I swear to God they're cheating. But it's more just fun just to see how much knowledge we have. So I normally do that, but I don't know how late this is going to go because it was supposed to start at 7. The plan is to do this tonight. It was 7 to 8, or maybe like 7:26 or whatever to 8:26, or maybe it'll go closer. I don't know. And then on Monday, after I get back from the doctor, I'm going to a spine clinic. I've had problems with my spine and my lower back since December. I'm hoping they will have some good news. I may have some form of sciatica, but hopefully caught it early. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to getting this help with my back on Monday. But after that's done, I'm not working, and it is the 11th of March, which, by my calculations and my research, March 11th, 2014 is when I uploaded the Ben Sinister Animals video, the first video from my apartment. So it would be 10 years from that point. So, but I don't actually have a day. That's when that was the release date of the album, I believe. It was also when I posted in the album media reviews blog. So the agenda for this first video, and I'll do another stream, hopefully on Monday morning, like I said, to cover some of this other stuff, and then maybe a video too. I'm probably, because it's just, call it self-indulgent, call it super nostalgia, call it narcissism of some kind. It's like, everyone, you have to be somewhat self-driven and ego-driven to an extent to do this kind of stuff. Otherwise, unless you're a messenger and a reporter, that was my original intent with all this stuff. Is I'm a sort of an amateur reporter trying to pass along music and everything that people would like to hear that they won't have the chance to hear. But it ultimately sometimes comes back to, like with radio, you like the sound of your own voice. So, but I have, let's see, channels I enjoyed, both old and new. I have 2 long lists. My channel history and related to the blog. And then I have, since 2014, this is all thinking somewhat since 2014 to today, an albums list. And of course, it's not 10 albums, a top list. I did the Pub Meeple rankings, and it's only vague. It's like 50 some. I have newly discovered bands, and that one I should probably just get out of the way because that's not a long list, even though it's probably not complete. Then I did a concert ranking. I saw I've seen 115 concerts approximately since on that concert list, which I'm actually doing a set list out of FM migration right now to try to remember. It's like, it shows you stats. It's a neat deal. So I've done like 30% of the concerts in there, but I have the list on my blog. That's an incomplete list. And I added up to about 115 since 2014. I whittled that down to about 50 some and then did a ranking. So I have a concert rankings. I don't see if we'll have time for that. A songs list is not done, but it should be, hopefully, if I do a stream, maybe we'll do the stream or the video next Monday. And then I have a top movies list, a top TV shows list that I also made. I was going to do some sports teams and events. That still is under construction. So without any further ado, and I don't know about having a guest or whatever. And I'm not familiar with StreamYard versus this is YouTube's platform I tried using initially, and that's why we started late. And don't have anyone streaming right now. So this is almost like a podcast too, but someone might. And I did try to tell some people about it, but I gave them the wrong link, which is unfortunate. But again, this is almost like a rough draft in that sense. So without any further ado, why don't I get to some of the lists? The shortest one is the band's list. So since 2014, I've discovered obviously a lot of new bands, and it maybe should have been also any bands that I got into. It doesn't matter what era, from what era of music history of the last, let's be honest, 60 years at most. But I just basically did from 2014 now, bands that were new to me that I got into. Small League Sink Ships is obviously a big one. Honestly, they're probably the band that I enjoy their output the most in that range of time. But the Family Crest is another big one. They were a huge deal. They're also will be found on the concert list, of course. Dirt Poor Robins, massive one. I talked about them. That was in 2018, and they kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. Totally, love that band. So much about them. Eldrin, and back in 2021, they sort of just came out of nowhere thanks to Chaotic Archives. This guy was an Apes and Androids fan. Their album Misinformation Age is really special to me. They're another one. Then I would say Major Parkinson and Dream the Electric Sleep I both discovered in 2014 and I've continued to still be a fan of, probably Major Parkinson more so. But I like both those bands, and I got into them. That was right around that time, 2014. Brian Scary and the Shredding Tears, that was literally, I saw the name a few years ago, also from Chaotic Archives, who basically introduced me to Eldrin. But it was 2020. It was just last year, rather 2023, that I really kind of went deep, and I'm still kind of like digesting. And I haven't heard a lot of the Scary's Closet stuff, and Brian's got another couple albums coming out this year, so I'm still kind of getting familiar with Brian Scary and the Shredding Tears. But definitely, the last couple of years, definitely the band I've gotten into the most. Toe Hider is also along that same lines, where in 2022, of course, the end of it, that great record, the 147-minute track, I Have Little to No Memories of These Memories, that came out, and that is definitely one that kind of made me. I had heard the name because my friend Josh from the time it was that drummer guy interviewed him, and I'd heard the name Toe Hider, knew his affiliation with Ariane when I'm not that big of into Ariane, which, by the way, I've kind of come to grips with. I would like to make one or more videos at some point. I don't know if I do it on a live stream or not necessarily, but I made one on Rate Your Music many years ago of bands that I don't like or don't get, that maybe based on my taste I should, or I struggle. I'm not saying I'm frustrated I don't like, but I think it's time for me to do that video or videos, just because there's so many of them. And I'll give an explanation. It's not, I'm not going to be pulling too many punches, but you got to respect the honesty and the truth and the reason why certain bands aren't covered. Why don't I talk about the band the Caddisfly fans love so much, or Incubus for that matter, Incubus and Cave In. Why don't I talk more about Cave In? Because I should like them based on the style, but their style and what it might taste. But to finish up this list, this short list, Squid, of course, just saw them live and love their first record especially. Giant Sky, love the new record, love the first record probably a little bit more. The side project now, project from Erlin from who was with Soup, and then Mask of the Phantasm, I think, and Fiacre. Those are the last two on this list. So again, it's not a massive list. These are basically bands that I've definitely considered myself somewhat, if not a pretty big fan of, although I'm probably not remembering a few names, just like Alton Gun or some of these other names that I've been getting into here and there. But that's the short list. So, all right, to move on to the self-indulgent 10th anniversary celebration stream, part 1. This is almost like that name of that that show that was NTSC, blah 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 blah, completely satirizing or parodying like NCIS and CSI and everything like that. I could do the albums list, I guess, and just run it down. It's a long list, so I could just do like the top 10, or I got the movies and the TV shows too, and then the channels. Well, since I just talking about music, I'll just do the albums list and see where I'm at. So, all right, I have a list of about it's like 50 some odd albums. Again, I'm going to use props, remember, or graphics or anything like that. So I'll just run through it. So number 52 is Ben Sinister's Animals plus Why Can't We Be Happy? The EP. I kind of lumped them together. Number 51, A Formal Horse. Here Comes a Man from the Council with a Flamethrower. Again, this is 2014 to 2024, mostly 2023. I don't have any 2024 releases on this. Number 50, Full Everything That Saved Will Be Lost, parts 1 and 2. I include them together. Number 49, Toe Hiders, I Like It. Great record. That one track is super catchy. There's one track on it. It's just a pop banger. It could have been on the radio and on the Disney Channel or something. Number 48, The Deer Hunters, Antimai. The number 47, Brian Scary and the Shredding Tears, Birds. Number 46, I Am the Morning's Belighted. Number 45, Clone. Not Clone the Prog, whatever that band that plays on the Prog Files. This is Ben Cooper of Radical Faith and Presidents of the United States, I believe, or electric president, rather. One of his side projects that was more electronic that was released only online is this conceptual thing about AI and some other stuff. It's great. It's on YouTube. It's just called Clone. It's self-titled. And when he did the Radical Faith stuff last year, he was in the Discord channel and doing a Q&A, and he said he's probably never going to do anything with it again, unfortunately. But it's a great project. It's kind of surreal and trippy and cinematic and everything like that. So anyway, Clone, number 45. Number 44, Muse Plus Minus. Number 4, the last album with Bo Madsen, sadly at this point. Number 43, Major Parkinson's Valessa, Chapter 1, The Velvet Prison. Number 42, The Foals, What Went Down. Number 41, Dream the Electric Sleep's Heretics. Number 40, Hotel of the Laughing Trees, Faraway Friends. I mean, I don't have the years. That was 2023. It was last year, of course. We should move this so I'm actually capturing it. Let's see. I got to go back to my list here. Mercy. I wish I had it in my hand. It'd be easier. Number 40. Where was I at? Heretics. Number 40. Hotel Life. Number 39. Kindo, as they were known for that one album. Happy However After, the last Kindo album. Number 38. Imogen Heap's Sparks. Number 37. Esperanza Spalding's 12 Little Spells. Number 36. Squid's Bright Green Field, their debut album from 2021. Number 35, Sickest Opicities, the mini album that came out, and it was like a comeback record. I think it was 2015. 2015 or 2016. I think it was 2015. So number 37, Esperanza Spalding's 12 Little Spells. Or no, I'm going backward. Number that was 35 was Sickest. Number 34 is Vinard's In the Deadwood from 2020. Number 33 is Small Leak Sink Ships, Low Tide, the album from last year. Number 32, Pure Reason Revolution's Eupnia. Number 31, Pain of Salvation's In the Passing Light of Day. Number 30, Long Distance Calling's Trips. Number 29, Self Super Fake Nice EP, an absolute fantastic EP. Number 28, Kevin Gilbert, of course, the Call Me Kai compilation box of those 4 albums he gave away to people and remastered by John Cuniberti. Number 27, Small League Sing Ships Golden Calf from 2017. Number 26, Marillion's Fear, or Fuck Everyone and Run. Number 25, Team Me's Blind as Night from 2014. Number 24, Pat Metheny's From This Place, very cinematic. Pat Metheny or Pat Metheny Group, I think it is actually. Number 23, Toe Hiders, I Have Little to No Memory of These Memories, that epic 47-minute track from 2022. Number 22, The Deer Hunters Act 5, The Devil, Hymn of the Devil in Confessional. Number 21, Bentley's Shiny Eyed Babies, my favorite Bentley album. Number 20, The Tea Party's The Ocean at the End. Number 19, Derpa Robbins' Dead Horse. Number 18, Mute Mass Play Dead. Number 17, Derpa Robbins' The Ravens Locks Act 3. Number 16, Kimbra's The Golden Echo. Number 15, Vinard's The Demon Joke. Number 14, Vonavi's Reflection. Number 13, Anathema's Distant Satellite. I hope I'm not being muted. This is all I'm not. Somewhat 24. I just don't want this echoing. Sorry about that. Again, this is almost like a training camp, spring training rehearsal dinner thing, because on Monday is the real anniversary and I'll know how to do more with this stuff. But anyway, moving on to the rest of the list here. Where was I? Number 13. Number 12, Gospel's The Loser from 2022, my album of the year that year. Number 11, Major Parkinson's Twilight Cinema. Number 10, Derpa Robbins' Queen of the Night from 2022. Number 9, Cloud Cult's The Seeker. Number 8, Everything's Get to Heaven. Number 7, The Family Crests Beneath the Brine. Number 6, Eldrin's Misinformation Aged. Number 5, Caddisfly's comeback album, Horses Galloping on Sailboats, which I have the little box there. Number 4, Fiacre's Thought Steps, unbelievable EP. Number 3, The Deer Hunters Act 4, Rebirth and Reprise. Number 2, Fates Warning's Theories of Flight. And number 1, of course, the last 5-star record that I've found still at this point, Small League Sink Ships, Face Yourself and Remove Your Sandals. All right, so that was an epic list again, so I can check that off the list. So before I go on to the concerts, because I want to maybe do some of this other stuff next. Because I was just going through and ranking the TV shows and movies. So why don't I do movies? It was interesting to try to remember some of these movies, and I can say that the whole belief that it's the golden age of television, which I don't believe that really that much. I would say I prefer the 2000s more so, or even the 90s. But the belief that television is more there's more quality television that's been made in the last 10 or 15 years than movies, at least that I've discovered, is true. Now with movies, I'm a cinephile. I used to be a very cinephile, but I just haven't had the time. Ever since actually being with my wife, I've seen less and less movies, just like concerts and everything. And she's not that. She likes straightforward movies. She likes animated movies, and I have a lot of animated movies on this list. And so when I do my movies of the year list, you're going to see, to see like there's a dip in quality as you get through into the 21st century. And again, part of it could be just I haven't found the great movies, some of these movies. But anyway, so I have a list of, it's 52 movies since the year 2014. And I'm missing a couple, I'm sure, but I'll just, whatever. When I get to the movies of the year thing, whenever that is, hopefully later this year, that will have to be, rectified and added to it. I have my Welch's ginger citrus twist, by the way. So number 52 is Licorice Pizza. I'm just gonna go through this quickly rather than talk about each one. Number 51 is a movie called Please Stand By. I think that's the one with Billy Crystal. There's one movie with Bill. Anyway, number 50, the Puss in Boots movie from 2 years ago, The Last Witch, or maybe even last year. The sequel, I think it was the second one. Number 49, We'll Never Have Paris, the Simon Helberg movie with Zach Quinto and Melanie Linsky, based on his actually real life experience with his wife, actually. But anyway, number 48, Respect, the biopic with Jennifer Hudson of Aretha Franklin. Number 47, Here Today. That might be I'm getting mixed up. One of them is a Billy Crystal movie, and one of them is Please Stand By is a Dakota Fanning movie. I think I can't remember. I should know these movies better. I just wrote them down. I have them in my list. But anyway, that's why they're that low. Number 46 is the Bill Murray movie, St. Vincent, and also had Melissa McCarthy. Number 45, Yesterday, that movie about the Beatles, if the Beatles music didn't exist. It's kind of surreal. Number 44, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. Not seen the second Jumanji movie, but I thought it was good with Jack Black and The Rock and Kevin Hart and what's your name from Doctor Who. Number 43, Confess Fletch, the Fletch, the third Fletch movie in history with John Hamm and everything like that. I liked it with Roy Wood Jr. Liked it, didn't love it, but I liked it. I love the original Fletch. That's going to be really high on my list for the year it came out. I think it was 85. Number 42, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I have not watched any of the sequels. J.K. Rowling, you put like sort of art and artist behind to the side about some of the things she's done, ever since the last decade or even the last 5 years. But still, that was pretty good with Dan Fogler and Eddie Redmayne. Number 41, the animated movie Elemental. Number 40, the Michel Gondry movie Microbe and Gasoil, or Microbe and Gasoline. I'm a big Michel Gondry fan. Number 39, Hidden Figures, good movie with Henson. Sharabi? I can't remember her first name perfectly. Had a lot of good performances about the Catherine Johnson, the engineer at NASA and everything like that. Number 38, Coco, the animated movie. Number 37, Ralph Breaks the Internet. Number 36, Birdman, the Michael Keaton movie, got the Oscar nomination for. Number 35, the Charlie Kaufman screenplay. I think it was directed. I'm thinking of, it's at least screenplay. I'm thinking of Ending Things with Jesse Plemons and Jesse Buckley. 34, Dream Scenario from just a few months ago with Nicolas Cage. Number 33, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, that sort of origin story kind of in between, and I haven't seen any of the television Star Wars, but I never even saw the last sequel, but I thought Rogue One was good. There's one criticism I had from it, though. One of the biggest is that the fact that everyone dies, pretty much, spoiler. Number 32, Soul, the animated movie. Number 31, Wilson, that was filmed here in the Twin Cities, and I met Woody Harrelson, actually, and a couple other people. What's her name? Who's married to RFK Jr., who was also in Waitress. I'm forgetting her name now. Let's see here. So that's 31. It's also a Daniel Klaus adaptation, which I love Daniel Klaus. That was maybe the biggest thing about it. I didn't meet Klaus. He wasn't here for the filming of it, but then I met him like a year or two later at a signing. Number 30, Blade Runner 2049. I thought it was good with Ryan Gosling, and of course Harrison Ford reprises his role. Number 29, Ant-Man, the first one. I haven't seen any of the sequels, but I thought the first one was pretty good. Number 28, A Man Called Otto, a recent movie with Tom Hanks from last year, from 2023. Number 27, Get Out from Jordan Peele. The only Jordan Peele movie, I like Jordan Peele, although not the only Jordan Peele movie on this list, but I like Jordan Peele more doing comedy. I haven't seen any of the sort of other, politically and socially narrative-based horror movies he's done since. But Get Out is good. It's very creepy at times. Number 26, Inside Out, animated movie. Number 25, Heartbeats Loud, with Nick Offerman, and they're in a record store. It's got a lot of charm to it, a lot of music-based stuff in that. In fact, I think you see like a Rush or a Marillion vinyl on the shelf. Number 24, Sorry to Bother You, the movie about the call center. It's very much of a not Black Lives Matter necessarily, but it's the stereotypes you see, kind of like it's not a Jordan Peele movie, but it could have been, actually. But there's some humor to it. It has Danny Glover and some other people in it. But the second half was kind of weird with the way they twisted it with the plot. Anyway, number 20, that was number 24. Number 23, Booksmart. Jonah Hill's sister. I can't remember her name, and the girl that was in Last Man Standing. It was good. It was Olivia Munn did the screenplay. There's a few things that were kind of weird with it, but they were saying it was like a sequel to another movie. The movie that Jonah Hill was in that I didn't care for them, and Michael Cera, the Apatow movie. It had very much of an Apatow movie feel to it, but it had enough moments. I like when they were doing the karaoke to Alanis Morissette's You Ought to Know and everything like that. But number 22, Everybody Wants Them, which was like a spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused. I don't know if it was Richard Linklater who directed it, though, but it had a similar kind of retro. It's like if the high school characters were in college. It was good. It wasn't as good as Dazed and Confused, but didn't have as many big names, but it was still good. Number 21, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, when you have the older Groot. Good soundtrack, of course. Number 20, Deadpool 2. And I haven't seen the third Guardians movie, but of course, Deadpool 3 is coming out. I like Deadpool 2 a lot, although you can see where the other one may fall or not fall. Number 19, Ready Player One. Very cool adaptation of the book about video games in the virtual world and everything like that. They even had like a Monkeys or like a George Michael section, a Wham section that my wife never saw it. I was just telling her about that, but they adapted a sequence to one of their songs. Number 18, a movie called Straight Up, an independent film. They reference Gilmore Girls. It's about a gay guy who meets this girl, and then it's about romance. It's a rom-com, but it's more of a clever, kind of smart alecky rom-com. It's got a lot more humor than I would normally expect, but I mean, I remember we watched it during COVID. And it was like the movie I needed to see because I needed an escape at the time. Number 17, Sing, the animated movie. They do those songs. Of course, the animals do that, those performances and everything like that. Number 16, the Lego movie. Everything is awesome. Number 15, The Secret Life of Pets. Really good DreamWorks animated movie that same people that did the Minions and the Despicable Me movies. And the end of it is just, I always get into tears when you see them come home to their pets and they play a lovely day. Where is it? Number 15. Number 14, Last Christmas. The use of the George Michael songs. The story is actually pretty, heartbreaking in a lot of ways. I have the bias because my wife loves George Michael, and George Michael is actually involved in some of the process of the songs and some of the stuff in this movie. Yeah, I mean, and I actually had never seen the lead actress, I can't remember her name, who was in Game of Thrones in anything, but I grew to really like her. I follow her on Instagram now. I can't remember her name though, of course. Number 13, Anomalisa, another Charlie Kaufman movie. Number 12, Blinded by the Light, that movie that used Bruce Springsteen songs really well. True story based on a guy who ended up, Bruce Springsteen inspired him to basically do what he did. I don't know if he was like a screenwriter, that kind of thing, but he was in England, East Indian guy. His family had moved to England, I believe. But yeah, it's funny how you wouldn't think Springsteen would resonate with this generation. He was in the 80s sometime, right when Born in the USA had come out, a little after that. Let's see here, and some of the images are pretty surreal. Number 11, the Minions movie. That was a huge deal to come out because we love the Minions, my wife and I, and the Despicable Me movies. I don't know if it ended up quite being as great as we hoped, and I know a lot of people kind of thought it was just dumb humor and the Three Stooges on, but it was, and they even had a monkey section. I mean, it was as memorable of a anticipated movie experience. We saw like an advanced screening as I ever, that's why it ends up number 11. Number 10, Palm Springs, the Andy Samberg movie. Really good sort of, I never did a review of it because that was in 2020, I think. I think it was on like Hulu. We saw it, but a Groundhog Day kind of movie. It was really well done. I'm not that big of an Andy Samberg fan, but the story, I don't know if the writer or the director's done since, but I would have put it almost a little higher than this in some ways. But anyway, number 9, 5/25/77, the John Francis Daley movie that finally came out. A lot of surreal images, the release date of the Star Wars movie and the whole process of this guy in the small town trying to make like these home movies and trying to make it into Hollywood and everything like that. It's really well done. I mean, there were reasons why, because it was really long. It was sort of a vanity project for the guy who made it. But I, in the long run, really appreciated a lot about it. Number 8, Love and Mercy, the Brian Wilson sort of biopic in some ways with both John Cusack and Paul Dano. Especially Cusack just was really good. He captured Brian Wilson really well. And Paul Giamatti was effectively terrible as that whatever he was, like his manager slash, like basically was his manager who basically was, controlling Brian Wilson's life in some ways. Number 7, The Lobster, the one, like the biggest, probably my favorite A24 movie. I have reservations about A24, but Colin Farrell stars in this. But it's the story about people where society has to limit them and they can be converted to an animal of some kind, because if they don't, that's I remember the gist of it was that. And so he chooses he wants to be a lobster, but then he finds out more like underlines about the process and why it doesn't have to happen. It has metaphors and similar kind of messages that you'd see in like Blade Runner 2, but Logan's Run and a lot of sci-fi stuff. I could go for seeing The Lobster again because it was whatever that was 6-7 years ago I saw that. I remember the second half being a little disappointing. The first 2/3 of it was really good. It was funny. It wasn't too weird. A lot of these A24 movies get a little too weird, and there's no coherence. There's not the story. They lose me, like everything everywhere all at once, or whatever, the movie that everyone loves the last couple of years that I wasn't crazy about. Let's see, number 5, Sing Street, probably the best, the second best really music-based movie set in the 80s about this kid who's playing music and inspired by Duran Duran, and he ends up falling for a girl too, everything, that's how he ends up being romantic because he does music and everything like that. But number 4, there's like a Genesis reference in that too. I remember that. But number 4, Keanu. That's the best thing that
Jordan Peele to me and Keegan-Michael Key have done. They've done a lot of great stuff between the two of them. But that to me is their like masterpiece. The thing with the cat and the scene with, he's talking about George Michael is just priceless. Number 3, Begin Again. That's another music base that actually came out in 2013, but I actually saw it the middle of 2014, so I kind of took a liberty. That's with Mark Ruffalo and what's her name? Who's been in like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Anyways, they're writing music, they're writing songs together, and that's kind of what the story goes. The relationship, it's about some other stuff, but why can't I think of her name now? Number 2, Deadpool. Yes, I love Psych and the pop culture and sort of the, what's the word? Explicit or the outspoken nature of the dialogue and the pop culture references totally won me over. This is a classic. This is a movie that people will be talking about 20 or 30 years from now. I know the comic book was made first, done way before it. But, and I haven't read the comics. I haven't read the graphic novels. And it's probably the best thing Ryan Reynolds has ever done, too. So I'm looking forward to the third movie, although, sequelitis. A lot of times the first movie is the only one that's worth, going back to and remembering. Number 1 is a movie called Victoria. It's a foreign film about a woman who, she's like hanging out with some friends of hers. She's like visiting some part of like France, or is it France? Maybe England. She's French, but then she gets caught up in like a whole like heist and all this stuff. It keeps you on your edge. The plot is fascinating. Another movie that I could go for seeing again, but I'm not the only one. People really praise this movie, but the problem is barely anyone saw it. I think it was on Netflix though, because that's probably where I saw it. But anyway. So that's my movie list. We're like at 7:57. Okay. So moving on to television, I guess. And then maybe I'll do some of the YouTube stuff after that. I just finished my television list and I got to pull it up. Top 42 television shows. And I'm probably forgetting a few in here too. And some of these I have not watched all of them. Some of them are still ongoing. I'm not even caught up with, but I just kind of started to riff on it and kept including show after show. There's 1 or 2 sitcoms I'm not remembering that we watched. But anyway, so let's see. Number 42 is So Help Me Todd, which is, my wife still thinks basically is a poor man's Psych or Psych ripoff in some ways, which it kind of is. It's on CBS. It has the guy that was in Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, the actor, which I can't remember his name, not Zach something. Anyway, but he's good with technology and phone. His mom's a lawyer, and they solve crimes. So it's there. There's a lot of parallels. One of the African American character's also name is Gus. There's a bunch of weird parallels to it, but it is different in some ways. Anyway, number 41, Ghosted. That was the Adam Scott and Craig Robinson show that was short-lived on the CW, which the first 10 episodes were good. It was kind of creature of the week thing, that's been done before, but you had Robinson and Scott, they had enough humor to it. But unfortunately, I guess some of the showrunner jump shipped about the 11th or 12th episode, and it just wasn't getting the ratings, and it didn't get renewed. It wasn't as good the last 4 or 5 episodes. In fact, I think the last couple of episodes aired over the summer after that, or never aired, because I don't know if we ever saw them. But anyway, number 40, American Housewife, one of many ABC sitcoms. Good show, Diedrich Bader and the female lead actress who was in. She wasn't in Two Broke Girls, but she was in another show with another female lead. She was a support. Oh, she was in Mike and Molly. But anyway, it had its moments. You had it was like a blue collar family living among white collar neighbors, and you had a lot of shots and a lot of jokes, that kind of stuff. Anyway, and the kid kind of reminded us a little bit of a Alex P. Keaton. Number 30, the male son. The last season they recast the daughter, and it was weird. But anyway, number 39, the Party Down revival, which ultimately I think was a little disappointing, but that kind of remains to be seen because they may get another season, especially bring Lizzie Kaplan back. But still good. But the first 2 seasons of Party Down obviously would be a lot higher on this list. Number 38, Paper Girls, the adaptation of Brian K. Vaughan's novels that was short-lived, unfortunately. Time-traveling girls, they're having to fix the universe, and they're paper delivery girls, but they're caught in time. They go into the future and then the past, but it didn't get much of a chance. But I still have the book. I haven't read it, the graphic novel, the whole thing. Number 37, Shrinking, the Harrison Ford, Jason Segel show, Jessica Williams, which I like, but I haven't watched. It's on Apple. Watched about 4 or 5 episodes I like, but that's still kind of the jury's out on. Number 36, Showtime's 1980s LA Lakers show. The first season I liked, although it definitely took some liberties on the personality types of like Jerry West, but it was still fun to see some of that stuff happening in history. But I didn't even watch that much of the second season because they went into they sped it up and everything, and I didn't get around to it. And it got canceled. Number 35, The End of the Fucking World, which was a Netflix show about like a guy who wanted to commit suicide, but then he doesn't. But he still has the agenda. He meets this girl who convinces him not to, but they're kind of on the run. It's sort of kind of like Manny and Lowe in some ways, but they're not sisters. The movie with Scarlett Johansson from the 90s. Number 34, Lucky Hank, the now canceled show with Bob Odenkirk as a college like an adjunct professor on this English department. It was good. I liked a lot of the cast. I liked the story, liked the characters, some of the plot lines, but as a good follow-up to Better Call Saul, it didn't get a chance and didn't get renewed, unfortunately. Number 33, The Middle, another sitcom that was long. It was on before 2014, but the ABC sitcom. I like a lot of the characters in it, although it wasn't like I was addicted to it. But watching those ABC sitcoms in the 2010s, it was one of those shows that we watched frequently. It was like on Tuesday or Wednesday nights. Was it Beth or I forget? Sue. Sue was the Sue character I probably liked the most. Anyway. Number 32, The Time Traveler's Wife adaptation on HBO, which the lead actor is now he was on White Lotus, I think, but I liked it. I mean, I love the book. I thought it was a more loyal adaptation, I guess, than the movie that was made in the 2000s with, was the guy who played the Hulk. I can't remember his name. And, I'm spacing on actors' names right now, but anyway, yeah, it was good. I don't know how long they could have continued because he kept on, like going back in time, seeing other versions of himself. Eventually, it would have kind of run its course, but I wish they could have done at least one more season. They could have introduced more people in their lives, but anyway. Number 31, Mixed Dish, the short-lived sitcom of like 2 seasons, I think. COVID kind of hurt it, unfortunately. The process of making Hollywood during COVID, but with Market Gosselaar from Saved by the Bell, and of course the narration from what's her name from Blackish, Ross. But yeah, I liked. I thought it worked, even though she didn't look like the parallels to the continuity with Blackish wasn't perfect. For nostalgia in the 80s, it was really cool making the references. That was the biggest reason we got to see this pop culture reference, this music reference, this television reference, this movie reference, this sports reference. It was neat to see that. I mean, I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. So, especially because Goldberg wasn't as good at that point. Number 30, Call Me Kat. The show that just ended. It was kind of a tradition. We were watching it frequently on Thursday nights. It was a COVID show. I mean, in another era, my wife and I may have not been into as much, although she kind of got attached to Cheyenne Jackson. Leslie Jordan was really funny in that show. It's, how he passed away and everything during it really kind of hurts. It almost makes him a martyr in some ways. But the show, it was hit and miss, but the best episodes were very enjoyable. It was like very therapeutic, sort of escapist television. Number 29, Never Have I Ever. Another show that on Netflix we got attached to, my wife and I. Mindy Kaling of course, The Office and the Mindy Project. Yeah, I mean, it's East Indian family, sort of based on Mindy Kaling's life in some ways. John McEnroe narrating was a big highlight of it. It was, teen romance, but it captured a lot of what I liked about like Veronica Mars and Gilmore Girls, in that watching sort of high school kids going through drama, but then with pop culture referencing, I don't get so sucked into just those teen soap elements. It was a teen soap to a degree, but It's like, how is Davey going to screw this up? How is Davey going to, and having McEnroe narrate it totally added charm to it. The last season was disappointing, I think, part of it. I think that was, and why they ended it there. They could have probably done one more season, but my wife was even more disappointed than I was, actually. Number 28, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. A show that ended kind of abruptly during COVID too, and sort of a COVID show because it started right before COVID. But the whole musical part of it, seeing the songs and that was that was a big part of watching that. It's like, what song are they going to cover now? And it did have Lauren Graham, although she jumped ship the second season from my memory because she went to do the Mighty Duck show, but I still liked it anyway. Number 27, The Runaways, the adaptation to the graphic novel series that Brian K. Vaughan and Joss Whedon did. A lot of people didn't like it that much. I thought the third season was a bit of a stretch, but I'm still a sucker for Brian K. Vaughan. I'm not that much into the MCU, but this was, again, an interesting plot about these kids and their parents' agenda to sort of, take over and for this alien race and all this stuff. And then they have to, then they get these superpowers, these like extra abilities. That trope, that kind of premise has been done in other stories before, but anyway, I felt it was pretty good. I liked the cast. The casting, you had James Marsters and, I'm trying to remember some of the other people in the show. It was worth it. I liked it. I think part of it was I wanted to watch it to support it, to hope that they could adapt Why the Last Man and some of the other Brian K. Vaughan stuff. And of course they did. And Why the Last Man isn't even on this list because it was a big disappointment. But that was part of his, like, if the Runaways is successful, then Brian K. Vaughan will have his chance to make this other stuff. And he kind of did. And unfortunately, both with Paper Girls and with Why the Last Man. Now, there's still Ex Machina, the movie. It's going to be called The Great Machine with Oscar Isaac. Ironically, Oscar Isaac was in the film Ex Machina, which is completely unrelated. But that's maybe Brian K. Vaughan's last hope until maybe they get the right person, right people to make, especially Why the Last Man, sometime down the road here, because it's a beloved graphic novel series, and I'm a big fan of his work. Anyway, number 27. Number 26, Everything Sucks. The kind of 90s, in some ways, adaptation or version of Freaks and Geeks. And it only had, like Freaks and Geeks, one season. It didn't have as many sort of star characters. It had the one girl who's gone, Sydney Sweeney, who's gone on to huge success with a lot of these roles, including, I think she's in the new Dune movie. But I really liked this show. It was high school in the 90s. It was very nostalgic, even though I went to high school technically in the 90s, but I have more nostalgia for the 80s. It kind of captured, it gave me a little bit what I loved about Freaks and Geeks, but just in the 90s. It was like the drama club. You had the nerds and the sort of the rivalries, a little bit like the Geeks and the Freaks. But yeah, it was more short-lived even than Freaks and Geeks. I don't even think it has as many episodes. So let's see here. Number 25, Speechless, another ABC sitcom with the guy who played from Big Bang Theory. What was his character's name? Kripke, with the list, which the actor, actually, that's what his real condition is, but he kind of didn't really care. And, he exaggerated more in Big Bang Theory, which he was hilarious in Big Bang Theory. But he was really good in this. The kid who, of course, who can't talk, who's in kind of like Walter Jr. in Breaking Bad. What's the actress from England who's been in Miranda? I can't remember her name. Anyway, it had some good plots. It had a bunch of different, like family members that were like rivals. It was like, there were like 6 or 7 characters. You had Kenneth, the big black guy who was in like Reno 911 and shown up in like a lot of the other ABC sitcoms and other like comedy troupes. He may have even been on like the Key and Peele show a few times. But anyway, it was good. Again, amongst the ABC sitcoms in the 2010s, it wasn't the best, but it was decent. I liked it a little more than the Middle and like American Housewives, although it didn't really get a great ending, unfortunately. Anyway, Minnie Driver, that's who I'm trying to think of. She was one of the other big people, one of the other big names that was in Speechless. So number 24, Love on the Spectrum, the reality show that it's about people on the spectrum and their sort of interest to go on dates, meet people, and it's a very compelling documentary series, reality show of some kind. Are some of it edited? We don't see everything, of course not, but especially the Michael character, the guy Michael, the person Michael who from Australia, the first 2 seasons, he's a laugh a minute, and he's just really fun to watch talk and just coming up with his ideals about what he's looking for, what he's not looking for, the way he sees the world. It's just and especially when my wife and I were watching this during COVID, it was total therapy to see this. And I still enjoy the US version, some more than others. I think the Australian version I like more, but I still enjoy. I don't know. They're able to do a European version now. They've done 2 seasons of the US, 2 seasons of Australia. Maybe maybe we're going to be doing Europe. I don't know. But anyway, Love on the Spectrum. Number 23, 12 Monkeys, which I have not finished, but I have seen like 3+ seasons of. I liked the movie. The show is, there's a lot of different plot lines, a little bit like Sliders, and different like factions with time and trying to manipulate time and who's good, who's bad. You like certain characters. It has Aaron Rule. Forget the lead character's name, who was in, I think the guy that was in Flakes. But yeah, I mean, I like time travel stories if they're good. I like post-apocalyptic stories, the way they tell what happened in history and they're adapting it. Good show, 12 Monkeys. But I still haven't gotten around to finishing it. I'm guilty of that. Part of it's like time and priorities, of course. Number 22, I'm putting The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, which, especially when it first launched, because I was on the heels, I had gotten into the Colbert Report. But when Letterman's going to retire, the first launch, we're wondering what he could get away with, because he couldn't get away with everything he got away with on the Daily Show, on Colbert Report rather. I liked it. We watched, especially during the election, and of course having Trump in office. The last few seasons we haven't watched. Last few years we haven't watched. My wife and I haven't watched as much. There were certain characters he did, certain bits he did. I don't know if he's done as much, like the hat. The hat where you pull it out, and the Midnight Confessions. Those were 2 of the best bits. I mean, the thing with Eric Trump is still always worth watching. But so I mean, I like the Colbert Report. I like it more than the other 2 prime time, like network talk shows. I don't even have Conan on here, but I don't know. I'm just thinking of shows that were in the 2000s or in the 2010s that we watched a lot of, my wife and I, in the last 10 years. So that's number 21, Blackish. A lot of humor, a lot of stereotyping. The Marcus Scribner, what's his name, Junior. I mean, the star, of course, is Anthony Andrews. He's the biggest star, and Tracy Ellis Ross. But Marcus Scribner is sort of the underrated. He's the reason why a lot of times I liked it. A lot of his lines were funny. He wanted to have a bro mitzvah and all this stuff. I mean, after getting into the Goldbergs, that came on the next season, and it really came up with a lot of funny stereotypes and showing reality. When it got serious, it kind of started to lose me, unfortunately. I also felt like when the daughter left to do Grownish, that I've never seen, the show started to dip, unfortunately. Even though I like Charlie, I like what's her name, comedian, some of the secondary characters, but so let's see here. Number 21. Number 20, Kevin Probably Saves the World. That was a short-lived show with Jason Ritter, where he was able to talk to this person who could tell him what to do to fix things to avoid a disaster. I think the budget was pretty high on it, but it was really well made. And my wife didn't like it right away, but then she kind of came around on it, but it didn't get renewed, unfortunately. Also had one of the support characters was kind of like a Tyler Labine or Jack Black type. The guy who I forget what he's done since, but he was good in that. Number 19, Schooled, the spinoff from the Goldberg set in the 90s, which the second season, it was getting better and better. It was featuring a lot of the teachers at the school, although the continuity wasn't fully there. They were bringing some of the Goldberg casts on. They had the Johnny, whatever, the guy, the Rush fan. And I know one of the guy who plays the teachers I have some reservations. His sort of agenda outside of his character, although separating art from artist, he was not the only character, but the guy who played the gym teacher or whatever, but he was still funny in that show. It's too bad it didn't get renewed, especially with Goldberg's dipping and about to end. It should have continued on. That would have been the logical thing to happen, but it didn't happen. Could have been like a different world Cosby Show thing in some ways. Number 18, High Fidelity, the show with Zoe Kravitz playing the John Cusack role in the record store. The thing is, like, I guess it was pretty much going to end at the first season because she already had an agenda to go do whatever it was, the Batman movie, Batman and Robin, or whatever it was, Batman, Superman, whatever the movie she. And so her Hollywood film priorities kind of killed that from getting renewed because it was good. I love the original movie High Fidelity. I thought it was a good adaptation. Anything about music, talking about record stores. Well, it's only a matter of time we get another show that's set in a record store, hopefully, or a movie even. Like Hearts Beat Loud or whatever. So number 18. Number 17, Fresh Off the Boat. Very much, the kind of Asian centric. We got a lot of, stories about Asian culture. That was the interesting part of it. It introduced me to what's his name? I can't remember his name. Lewis something. The lead actor in it. Even though it's based on Eddie, whatever his name is. I'll just look it up. Randall Park. Introduced me to Randall Park and Constance Wu. I really liked Fresh Off the Boat for a lot of it. I mean, part of it, they stopped the narration after the first season, which I think it was the first season or the second season. At some point, the real guy that's based on stopped narrating. I think it lost something with that. I did like in Schooled and Everything Sucked, the 90s pop culture references and a lot of basketball references. My wife didn't get all that stuff because she doesn't care for sports. But, in the 90s, I was super into the NBA, and there was a lot of basketball stuff. It was set in Miami. But yeah, it was fun. The grandmother was hilarious, and she never spoke in English until like toward the end of the last season. But Fresh Off the Boat was really good. Anyway, where was that? Number 17. Number 16, I'm putting the Veronica Mars miniseries, which the movie itself was not amazing, but the miniseries was really good with Patton Oswalt and J.K. Simmons. And it captured really what was great about the show and one more plot. So, yeah, it was really good. I mean, I could go for seeing it again, actually. I wish they could do another one. The only thing is spoiler alert, they killed off the Logan character, which unless they did like a prequel or like some other thing, they tied things together. Parallel universe. We wanted to see them do Veronica Mars at the FBI, and they kind of incorporated that in the movie and some into the miniseries, but they never had her actually working at the FBI. Because they wanted to bring back the old characters, of course. Let's see here. Number 15, The Daily Show, which truth is I did not watch The Daily Show at its peak with Oliver or with when Colbert was on it and Steve Carell. Not that much. I could have. I didn't find their humor to be that funny, and now I have. But I think even with Trevor Noah and some of these people like Jordan Klepper have come on, and Desi Roy Wood, and Ronnie Chang, The Daily Show is one of the funniest shows still on TV, and so that's why it goes at number 15. Number 14, Dead to Me, Christina Applegate and from Freaks and Geeks, Linda Cardellini. Hilarious. Another show that we watched right when we bought our house. We started watching right when we bought this townhouse. But then during COVID, it was kind of a therapy show. Also, it was kind of things were like a transitional show, and it was one of the easiest shows. The first season, it was the classic binge. It had Ed Asner. Ed Asner was hilarious that first season. But I mean, it's dark. Some of the dark tone, but it was sort of like the black comedy element totally sucked me in. So yeah, Dead to Me, number 14. Number 13, Cobra Kai. We got one more season left. I binged that a few years ago. I had not watched it when it first aired. When it was on YouTube initially, and then it ended up going to Netflix. But the first few seasons is like fast food or like comfort food TV. And I like the Karate Kid movies. Haven't seen them in ages, but seeing those characters where they've gone, I think that it's kind of gotten to the point where it's good to have it end now, but it's had a good run, even though some of the fight sequences have kind of gotten a little out of hand. But yeah, no, I still like a lot of the Cobra Kai, and that's why it ends up number 13. Number 12, Young Sheldon. Even though my wife and I kind of jumped ship on it, we were watching Call Me Kat at the same time. And at one point we were watching Superstore at the same time. But I would say that, yeah, I mean, young Sheldon still, the Georgie character is my favorite character. Of course, we have Sheldon, too, telling the origins of his character. The fan service, but some of it being a little different has helped it. So, number 12. Number 11, Dispatches from Elsewhere, the short-lived series that might have only meant to be one season with Jason Segel and Andre 3000 and Sally Field. It's mystery, but not super dark, but, mysterious enough, this sort of plot-based, different clues. Where is this leading to the society? What does the society do? What do we not know? Do we need to worry about this? It was really well crafted and well written and well sort of sequenced. But it was only one season, unfortunately. It's almost like a mini series in that sense. And that came on right during COVID too. So that was another show I hold in high regard because it sort of was an escapist from, the reality of COVID. Number 10, The Big Bang Theory, even though The Big Bang Theory's peak is way before this, from 2007 to about 2011 or 2012. And up until about the second to last season, Big Bang Theory still was funny enough. The female characters were more, featured, and some of the secondary characters. Sheldon, Raj could talk to women. I mean, some of the plot lines, but there were still enough episodes in the later seasons that I liked. It had to still go on this list relatively high. It's an all-time classic show. So, number 9, Last Week Tonight, John Oliver, which didn't start watching until after it started, but it's a super like therapeutic show. We look to The Daily Show and John Oliver and Colbert to kind of like escape the harsh reality of the way that we have idiocy in this world with politics and the news and everything, just comic relief, really. And it's so well written. I don't know if it's quite as good as it once was, though, but it still works so well. I wish he would do half the show on just the headlines, though. If he can't do more than one show a week, I wish he'd do more on the normal news stuff and then just do half of what, or I don't know. I mean, I wish the show was maybe like 45 minutes versus 30 minutes. That's part of it. Because sometimes the topic of the week isn't as good. But I think it was more interesting a few years ago than it's become. But it's still good. I mean, some of the the humor he uses, like stuff with animals and and different actors. He had a thing for Adam. What's his name? The guy from Star Wars. The joke is sometimes run thin. But anyway, number 9, number 8, Silicon Valley, another HBO show that I finally watched a couple of years ago, and I love Mike Judge. I'm a huge Mike Judge fan. Martin Starr especially was the best part of this show, but almost all the characters were good. I mean, toward the end, it wasn't quite as good because some characters left, but the nerd humor, the sort of nerd plot lines, like with the financial plot lines, it's like finance humor in some ways. Tech, billionaire, like you have all this money, you can do this, and I can make this billionaire look stupid. That was the charm of it, and sort of the almost like Revenge of the Nerds or like nerds fighting nerds. That was part of the humor in it. And yeah, Silicon Valley is great. I should have watched it long before I did, but I'm glad I finally did. Number 7, Mayor of Easttown. Kate Winslet's one of her among many fine performances. I'm a Kate Winslet fanboy. I got right when I saw, especially when Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind came out, I was just like, I need to see everything. Even before that, I really liked a lot of her work. I do not like, I do not watch Leonardo DiCaprio. The Titanic. Titanic's the one movie I'll never watch of hers. But yeah, she was phenomenal in this. It's a great mystery. I mean, the ending plot, yeah, I can see why they used it to try to keep everyone off guard a little bit too much. I think it still worked, but I have to admit that the criticism of how they explained, who was responsible was, it was a little less desirable, but the mystery throughout the different characters, what characters' motivations was really good. The Goldbergs, number 6. So, I mean, the Goldbergs, the first 4 or 5 seasons was absolute gold. The 80s pop culture was through the roof. It kind of filled the void without Psych and without with Big Bang Theory not being as good as it once was. And like that 80s pop culture references, and it was one of the best nostalgia shows ever made. Of course, it's Adam F. Goldberg. Yeah, sort of some of it's based on life. And of course, they took liberties. 1980 something. The continuity wasn't perfect, But you got to get this movie episode, Indiana Jones theme, Star Wars theme episode. We had a Rush episode. That was the great charm of the Goldbergs, and being a kid in the '80s, like all the toys they showed and different things that were happening, it was right up my alley. Just like Freaks and Geeks, just like all these retro, like period based shows. I did like stuff like the Wonder Years and what Happy Days. All those shows were set in the past, but Goldbergs and Freaks and Geeks are probably two of the best that ever did it. And you could put Stranger Things on the list, I suppose. So number 5, Superstore. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but when it was good. It was really good. Some of the Bo character, especially. My wife always thought he was just like Jesse from Breaking Bad, but he was a laugh a minute. Every line he had was funny. And then Colton Dunn's character was just hilarious. I don't want you coming over when I'm watching Lord of the Rings, or it's not Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones night. No, you can't come over, and he started doing like impersonations of like the Glenn character. He was given names like Leonard Nimoy, Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross. Let's see, sir. Number 4, Stranger Things. It's very nostalgic. I like the story, the plot lines. Yes, it has a lot to do with like aliens and like Goonies and it's some people have kind of jumped ship on it because they think it's gotten a little out of touch, and then they don't like the fact that it's become so popular. I don't really care. It's just a good story, the good storytelling, the good characters, the Dustin character especially. He's the best character. Although I think the last couple seasons he hasn't been used as well as I wish he would have. But he's the nerd. He's the pop culture guy, especially among a few other characters in it. I mean, everyone loves Eleven, of course. She's the hero, the one who has the abilities and all that stuff. But number 3, The Expanse. Did a massive binge on that a couple years ago. It is really good. It's almost realistic science fiction in space in the future. Remind me of what I love of stuff like DS9 and Babylon 5. And I like the first couple seasons, especially the what's his name? The guy who left the show, he ends up dying. The cop, unfortunately. That was the one thing about The Expanse that was a little disappointing. That's why I was a little skeptical. What's his name? Oh, he's Thomas Jane, who played Joseph. Detective Joseph Miller. They just called him Miller really on the show. But yeah, I mean, he definitely was my favorite character. And then they brought him back in a kind of a cool way. Although, yeah, I wish they could have continued more with him. But it had some characters you didn't like sort of find their fate. That I liked, the sort of factions of the Belters and the factions on Earth, and there's a lot of different plot lines. I love those kind of multi-layered, different, like perspectives of different races in the future in science fiction. Like I said, Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine did that really well too, and I thought The Expanse did it well too, and Galactica to some degree. So let's see, number 3. Number 2, Sense8, which I slept on that. That's J. Michael Straczynski and one of the Wachowskis. These people that have these extra senses that get connected. It was fascinating the way they tied them all together genetically and how they, where they were born and everything like that. I mean, it was, I know that they had to like fund like a finale for it. And I think the fan base of Sense8 would probably, be up for adding more to the story. I don't know if it ever will happen, but I mean, it's like there were a lot of different characters, and the fact they could see each other and it was fascinating when they told the different characters. They were kind of going back and forth. It was kind of like Heroes, but done in a more interesting way. Yeah, Sense8 number 2. Number 1, Better Call Saul. What can I say? I mean, love the Saul character, although you learn a lot more about how he became that way, and the way they kind of told that origin of him and some of the other characters in Breaking Bad was really good. I mean, it was a little bit fan servicey, but it sort of morphed and evolved into its own thing. The only thing I wish they could have done a little bit more with the Gene period, or there could have been some other stories they could have explored, which I don't know if Vince Gilligan hasn't denied they're never going to go back to the Breaking Bad universe, but I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think he's at peace at the end of it, even though things happen and you're sad that certain characters, don't end up in at better fate. I mean, it's like you love something and you get more of it, so you almost appreciate that more of it more. And I mean, it had enough humor, although you think about it, the Saul character was a big part of the comic relief and humor of Breaking Bad. But then in Better Call Saul, he doesn't end up. It ends up being more drama. I mean, there's still a lot of humor, but it kind of gets lessened. It becomes more subversive or more subdued. But it's still a really fascinating story and prequel / sequel origin story to a beloved show that it ended up number one. I don't know if there will be another show from the 2010s to early 2020s that I'll like more. So, all right. So we're on what? We've been about an hour. I don't know if I have time to do anything more tonight because I've been doing this about an hour. That was basically my goal. I wanted just to kind of go over nostalgia, and that maybe will be on Monday. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, just to wrap this up, or just to talk a little bit about, because no one's really watching this, so this is going to basically be a podcast, anyways. YouTube and with YouTube, I mean, if anyone's watching this far after all these lists, yeah, I didn't really plan to do YouTube. Really, I mean, YouTube launched in 2005 or 2006, and I had been writing in a journal, and then I started doing the blog, and I just, even though I did radio, when I was trying to do podcasting, I never thought I'd want to show myself on camera for various reasons, but a lot of people started doing it, and it got so frustrating, and all the kind of activity and attention kept on focusing more and more toward it. I just decided to say one day I had nothing to lose just to try this. But I'll say that doing it for 10 years and having this little of a performance per se. I mean, just as an example, today I looked up Dirt Poor Robins, and I've made 20 videos where I've talked about them since 2018, yet it's not anywhere in the top 20 hits. I just made a video about them I made 2 videos where they were, so that's part of the issue. It's like, you need to understand the algorithm and whether YouTube finds you or not. I also think some of it's the culture and people, certain people, like other people, they'll do things for you. They'll try to help you, and other people, I don't know. That's part of it too. But so when I launched it, it was really just, I was like, I'm still going to do my blog. I'm just going to try making some videos and see what it is. And it was largely to do maybe some reviews and show some of my records. That was part of it too, because I was actually collecting records, although I've collected more records since doing YouTube. So you could say in some ways YouTube has driven my record collection, which is for better or for worse. And also Record Store Day has become more and more of a thing, especially with the special releases since I launched the YouTube channel in 2014 anyway. But no, that was largely, and so like the history of my channel, the early days, a lot of it was Record Store Day recollections and footage, and with my wife, and a lot of that was just I'm going to show my records and my CDs. But I mean, it's just sort of that's like how much time, and I discovered how much time making videos takes, and how much memory it takes, of course, in your computer, and how long it takes to save a video and all that stuff, and the editing can just take hours. And that's partly why I've been frustrated with it. And it just, again, kind of makes me wonder if the videos I'm making are really of a quality where if these other people are finding more of a following, why mine are. But, I'm going to stick with it for now. But I think, if I'm going to try to finish up the projects I'm doing, I may start some of these new projects like the movie one. But, I'm still kind of wondering. But, doing it for 10 years, whatever. And I actually, the truth, the first few years I did it, even though I launched it in 2014, I was more of a commenter, because when Google or Gmail, it would be Gmail, when Google basically bought out YouTube, where they merged, then everyone's Gmail account potentially became a YouTube channel. So really that was like in 2011. So that this actual account started in 2011, but I didn't film any videos in this account until 2014. Oops. So I don't know, I could go over some like this. I'll go over half the list of a lot of these channels that I was watching in the early days. these weren't necessarily in chronological order, but around that time, the Needle Drop, of course, that is the plan, which is the Needle Drops was his secondary channel, which I actually at one point found better because I liked that he was more nonchalant about it, and he wasn't going into Calico Chesta and all that crap, and he was more blunt on that channel, and it was like he'd talk about other things that I would find more interesting. He even had a podcast I used to listen to sometimes, but he ran his course for me, unfortunately, and I don't really pay attention to him much anymore. He doesn't like prog, other than like the Mars Volta and everything, and then like some old stuff, of course, like Yes and like Pink Floyd and maybe Rush. He liked Dream Theater a little bit, I guess, but Watch Mojo was another one that was really big even before I launched this channel, and still is, of course. But I found that they were doing a lot more music lists, and now I don't really pay attention to them because they're pretty much sold out to let's do Hollywood lists and let's do pop culture lists, let's do gossip lists, and so thanks, Watch Mojo, and the whole voting thing, and they, then I was doing like react to Watch Mojo or list that Watch Mojo won't make, but they were like a poor man's BuzzFeed, ultimately, and I didn't watch BuzzFeed at that point, but I know BuzzFeed was bigger, and they became a poor man's BuzzFeed. They were cooler when they were doing more music stuff and more like underground music stuff. They interviewed John Petrucci once, which he's not super unknown, but compared to pop culture, you ask people in Hollywood John Petrucci is, they don't have a clue. Anyway, but that was a big one. I mean, those lists they were doing they did a prog list, I think, and they did a lot of, they did history, and they even started to do sports, but they kind of screwed it up. But I wanted them to do a lot of like teams of each decade and all this stuff, which I should do those of my own. So anyway, moving on. A guy named Eddie Goomba, who he does have a channel still, but EDDYGOOMBAH. The thing I liked about him is that he did this one video that he took down or was taken down of his music evolution of his tastes. And one of the bands he talked about, They Might Be Giants, and then the related band in some ways, because he played with them, Self. And he made this statement about how this guy, he doesn't understand why he's not the biggest like musician in the world, why he's not more well known, because he's never made a bad song, which I don't know if I would say that, but I totally was like, yes, this guy gets it. Although I don't know if he ever knew about Apes and Androids, but his channel now does like some other stuff, and he's been limitation. But I really liked a few of the videos he did about his music taste. And anyway, next one is Cover Killer Nation. And he was a big deal for a few years there among the metal community, hard rock and metal community especially. And I know he got a lot of crap at points, and I didn't have a lot of issues with him, although he'd melt down sometimes and, get upset at people, but that was part of the appeal. And then occasionally he'd talk about, who was it? It wasn't Saigon Kick. It was Push Monkey. Who the hell's talked about Push Monkey on YouTube? Barely. I was really impressed when I found one of his videos talking about Push Monkey. Yeah, I mean, he did a lot on prog metal, and but metal in general, and but he didn't seem to be sort of super into obscure stuff. He actually covered other stuff, and he had this momentum, and then I guess it kind of plateaued. I don't know if he would have started a page, like if he had been around later. He doesn't. His channel is still up, but he doesn't make videos because he's had health problems, unfortunately. But yeah, I liked his videos. I mean, I wasn't obsessed with him, but if you knew anyone who was doing music reviews with metal, he was the first name that came up, almost always, or one of the first names. So like Consequence of Sound, who was sort of adjacent in some ways to the Needle Drop, but they were like a blog, kind of like, and that's why my whole mentality is like, just like me, I'm trying to adapt my blog to YouTube. But it was like a news service, and they're still around. I know that Jordan Blum has done some writing for them, but I found their channel hit and miss. They had these group chats, and they had like the studio and stuff, and they were a little too hipster at points, just like the Needle Drop for me, that I eventually jumped ship on them. I mean, in theory, I would have liked them. There were some other channels that covered some of the same stuff, but different stuff that crossed over that I thought were better, but weren't nearly as popular as them. But I always felt like their channel, they felt like they were trying to get bigger than they ever became. I don't know if they still put videos up now, but I don't bother with them anymore anyway. So there was a channel called Two Metalheads. was these two guys that a friend of mine knew, and they just would talk about metal and, you know, review and other stuff. It was just quick little fun little reviews about nostalgia and, you know, this is the album I'm liking right now, and, you know, why is this the best song on it. It was quick and easy, but it worked, and unfortunately never caught on, but I liked their channel. I just want to check to see if there's any activity. Kind of doubt it, but just so you know, this is probably going to be like a podcast, but as I've been talking for well over an hour. So moving on to some of this list, because it's a long list. I knew this was gonna be long, so I'll probably have to just do part 2 on Monday. But Adam 02, well, he originated, I want to say, maybe it was on YouTube. I guess it was. He made the funniest Dream Theater parody videos, or like satirical sort of voiceover sketches ever. And it was like Beavis and Butthead. He only made about 6 of them. The John Petrucci, you know, I'm going to destroy you, you know, it's like move up to 6,000, you know, and the voiceovers were hilarious. He made it really slow. The Dream Theater fan voiceovers, and I mean, he only made like 5 or 6 of them, but those are 5 of the 6 greatest videos ever on YouTube. And even I think he made a couple of videos around the time I started my channel. So I mean, he's not that active anymore. He was doing some documentary type stuff, but those videos were hilarious. And they're like a total meme. I know Petrucci himself was actually, there's a clip of him being asked about them. He started doing like the whole, you know, monkey man, like the, you know, my arms are bigger than your, you know, your leg. So then Bull Moose was, it still is a channel. Chris, his name is Paul, I think, or Chris, is his name Paul? Chris Brown was one of the 2 people that really started Record Store Day back in 2007 or 2008. But he was the manager or owner of one of the Bull Mooses in Maine. But the biggest thing is the main thing he would do is he'd do Record Store and then Black Friday Record Store Day videos where he'd show all the special release items. So those were always epic videos and fun to watch. And he gave some context of a lot of them, and he liked his prog, which is cool. And then he also would occasionally do this thing called Record Time with Chris. So I guess he kind of is done with doing that for various reasons. And I know Bull Moose had some issues with their store and some PR stuff, and they're still around though. But I mean, I've never been to Maine, but I really liked his channel, liked his videos. He had a little bit of a following just because the Record Store stuff. Anyone Record Store would find his videos, but I wish he was still doing it. We have another one that's kind of doing it the last 6 or 7 years, but I think the Bull Moose ones that Chris Brown did were the best. Chris Stuckman, he's kind of the equivalent of the Needle Drop for movies. I'm still a subscriber, but I don't really watch his videos that much anymore. Maybe because I'm not seeing a lot of movies, and there's not a lot of movies I want to see reviews of for the most part. He had that whole get Stuckmanized thing. I got a little tired of it, but I mean, he was a good source. He wasn't the only source for movie reviews. I know he did some reviews for like either Rotten Tomatoes or I don't know. It was like he did professional reviewing before he was on YouTube, but I like him. I mean, I find him at least more value in his channel still than the Needle Drop, I guess. But I'm not really, you know, I've kind of been there and done that with him. I don't know, at some point, if he would collaborate with some of the other movie channels I do like, I would probably start to re-energize my interest in him. But you know, he doesn't need, he's got millions of subscribers, so he doesn't need my help. Okay, so here's one that was a big deal. And this person, and he had a little bit of a following for a few years. I even made a video about him, and this guy, his name was Alex. He was this younger guy from, I guess he was from not England. He was from Wales. I think he was from Wales. His name was Alex. He had a channel called Ministry of Music, and it still exists to some degree under a different name. But his reviews were really good. I don't know why it was. He did these album reviews, and he would take requests. Now, he made this request. He got up over 2,000 subscribers, and he kept on getting request after request. And I was guilty of that. I would request 2 or 3. I was like, you should listen, check this out, you know, and I felt bad for him, actually, to an extent, the level of time he put into this. And I think I don't know if it caught up with him or whatever, but his reviews were great. I mean, he reviewed anything and everything that, you know, he would be willing to review most things. Ben Sinister or Kevin Gilbert or whatever. But yeah, his channel developed a bit of a cult following. There are people still out there that still know him, but Ministry of Music, or now known as Alex Das XU4 XU4RU. Anyway, then there's Sound of Ominous, who this gentleman from somewhere in Europe, I'm not sure it was Germany or where, but he was trying to do what Alex was doing after Alex kind of ended his channel, stopped doing it, and his videos were pulled. He privatized them. I like Sound of Ominous's reviews at points, but sometimes his reviews would meander. I couldn't understand half of what he was saying, but I admire his effort to like sort of, take over, because people really love Ministry of Music's reviews, and he was trying to do a similar style where it's like the album review. This is the whole structure of the way he did it. It's like, this album's got 10 songs. The best parts of it are this, whatever. I mean, it's not that different than a lot of reviews, but Alex had something really unique about the way he did it. I don't know why. And he did react to Watch Mojos, which were always funny. But Sound of Ominous, props, but he unfortunately his channel, and he started doing live streams, and he's been on Discord. Anyway, Daniel Flux, aka Daniel Gerards, this guy who was he used to do like live streams sometimes and or podcasts with these people, but he was a big Maudlin of the Well fan. That was the biggest thing. I'm friends with him on Dan Coffeeman on Rate Your Music. His taste and my taste don't cross over that much, but we did connect with our interest in Maudlin of the Well. Anyway, him and two other channels that kind of associate with him were these younger guys from Europe who love their metal, or love some other stuff, metal among other things. Christian McGuire, Angry Christian 1, now he's known as, I guess. Big Sabotage fan, metal, a lot of older school metal, liked his channel. He got a little bit of a following, but, I mean, he was more successful than I ever became, and he's still on YouTube. He like left and came back recently, but and he's been doing some like sort of retrospective documentary type things, including one on like Crimson Glory. And anyway, Christian McGuire, I always liked his channel. Downfall Network. Now this is Downfall. I forget his real name. He was hilarious, and he did these retrospective. When I was starting to do like artist review, I showed my collection. He did these retrospectives where he did voiceover video for lots of bands like Fates Warning, Rush, Dream Theater. He never did King's X, but I don't know how much of a King's X fan, but he was really into metal, old school metal, not so much modern metal, but even though he's a younger guy. And then he got people like Iron Maiden fans to help out and everything like that. And his channel started to grow, and they were almost going to get as big as Cover Killer Nation, because I think Cover Killer Nation became aware of them. But unfortunately, his activity the last, I don't know how many years, has changed. I don't know if he went to Discord, went to TikTok, I'm not sure. But yeah, I always liked Downfall, and I did a King Crimson video. He was assuming I was going to get it taken down. I didn't play any music, so I didn't get in trouble, but someone else apparently had. So, and he used to do live streams. Like one of the first people I ever saw do live streams with groups. And some of the discussions were hilarious. It was always on a Saturday night. It's like 8:48. I think I may wrap this up for now, because I got to get going. I got some stuff I need to do, and the better half's going to be coming home soon. But so yeah, I guess part 2 will probably end up being on Monday afternoon. Probably I might make a video or two with some of the stuff I have as part of this agenda, or as part of the 10-year, happy 10-year anniversary or whatever. But thank you for watching, everyone. Hopefully that I won't have the hangups I had again with the stream, and I can go live when I'm scheduled to, knowing that I need to use StreamYard instead of the YouTube version. The YouTube, that was the biggest problem I had. But thank you for watching. If you find this video, I'd love you to subscribe, give it a like, comment, and pass it along to people. I really appreciate that, and we'll see you next time.